I'm sorry, if you don't keep playing with the phone, the thing turns off, and I was not paying attention to the phone, paying attention to the road. But we were talking about this story with Rabbi Goldberg with the... Can I pass this guy already, or no, it's a hill. With Rabbi Goldberg with inviting this Pastor Bramnick, and I was comparing it to NYU. They brought the Cardinals to come visit to see the yeshiva, and then later, after they did that in YU at YCT, they actually had the Cardinals sit and learn the Chavrusa with the Ingalite, with the Bachrim from the yeshiva, which they did not do at YU. I want to pass, but there's always cars coming. So anyway, I can't see now, it's a hill. So anyway, I was saying, Rabbi Braunschweigel being a Holocaust survivor, he was, very uncomfortable because he felt for him it harkened to the Holocaust. That was the way he viewed the world. He views the world. I don't know. I mean, he's not well now. He has Alzheimer's disease, but so. So these are the questions of how. So I was going back to Rabbi Hammer. He said he went to visit the Catholic priest across the street at Our Lady of Snows, and my mother is Jewish and my father was Catholic. My father grew up in that church. Not grew up, but when they moved from Jamaica to Floral Park, that's their church. That's a church my grandpa went to. So anyway, Rabbi Hammer, he said the priest said to him, we believe in the same God, and Rabbi Hammer, again, he was obviously uncomfortable with this whole exchange. He was trying to be cordial. And he said, let's not talk about theology. Are you a Mets fan or a Yankees fan? And it turned out he was from Boston. He was a Red Sox fan. And so it upset everybody initially, when the rabbi was telling the story. So the point that I'm saying is that what point do we have interactions, what point do we not have interactions? And again, everybody really has to decide that on their own based on where they're coming from. First of all, which chutzner do they come from? Are you coming from a modern Orthodox background? Are you coming from a yeshivish background, a Hasidish background? In the Hasidish oilam, it's not on our radar to do these types of things, from the yeshivish also pretty much the same thing. But from the modern Orthodox world, if you're interacting with the world of academia, with the world of, the Haredish world, they're interacting in the world of business, right? So there was a story, there was a group of Satmar businessmen were doing business with Muslims, and the Muslim businessmen, they wanted to meet Rabbi Teitelbaum, the Satmar Rebbe from Monroe, who is a tremendous Talmid Chacham. I have a lot of respect for him. I hold him to be mamish one of the Gedolei Ador. I know a lot of people don't like him, but personally, I really like him very much. I like Reb Zalman Leib also. They're very different people. But I know both of them. I haven't been to either of them in a few years, but maybe I was by Reb Baron. I was by Reb Baron Purim, not last year, but the year before, I think. It'll be 2 years ago, Purim. Maybe this year also I'll stop by. But and Reb Zalman Leib. I saw him in shul at Bloomingburg. Said hi to him. I don't remember how long ago that was. Probably also 2 years ago, because the whole COVID time. And I haven't really been going to Rebbes or anything. The only Hasidic Rebbe really I think I saw, like since COVID, was Shidlovtzer Rebbe came to our shul, came to our house, whatever. And but he's more like a friend of mine, But anyway, so they asked Reb Aaron, they asked Satmar Rebbe from Monroe, could they bring the Muslim businessmen to meet him? He said, sure, it's a Kiddush Hashem, So, and the same thing I've told people in Orange County, rabbis and Reform conservative rabbis, are go meet him. You just have to wait online and say hello, and it's an open door. Anybody can go. Now with COVID and everything, it's very difficult and everything. But anyway, when it's an open door, you go. So. And the same thing with Zalman Leib, although I've always found it easier to get into Reb Aaron than I've only went into Zalman Leib once, or into Reb Aaron a whole bunch of times. But anyway, and a bunch of times I tried to go to Zalman Leib, but he wasn't around, he was busy, So, see, whatever it is, but the point I'm saying here is, the same thing, if a priest wanted to go visit Reb Aaron Teitelbaum, a local priest, a local minister in the town of Monroe would want, just out of curiosity or whatever it is, want to go in. I don't know what they necessarily talk about, but he wouldn't say you can't come in, right? And obviously, probably the priest would be respectful and not wear a big cross or anything like that, keep his cross under his, I was asked to speak at St. Mary's College in Newburgh, and it's online, and the nun was the professor. It was a course on world religion, and the nun, she took down all the crucifixes from the classroom out of respect, because the rabbi was coming, So, these are at St. Mary College. There are Jews there also. Everybody. It's not, even though it's a Catholic school. It's like St. John's in Queens. There's a lot of Jews. I remember Dr. What's his name? I don't remember his name now. There's one of the guys I went to yeshiva with, is Gavorna Doctor, and he said he came back. He was a little older than us. He came back to visit in Ezra Academy, and he said, he was at class in St. John's, and he said the professor was a nun. She asked, there happen to be any Jewish students in the classroom, any Jews here? And so he raised his hand. He said, there's me and there's the guy on the wall. I don't know if it's a true story, it's just a joke. But anyway, so these are the questions we have to ask in general. How much interaction are we supposed to have with the outside world in general? And then if we're having interaction with the outside world in general, how much of that is in a multi-faith setting? And at what point is it comfortable for a Jewish speaker to go to a Christian setting? And at what point is it comfortable for a Jewish setting to invite a Christian speaker to come speak? And it's the same question on the other side. The churches might also be uncomfortable inviting a rabbi, an Orthodox rabbi, to speak. And that might be a question within a church. You almost will never have that happen, though, in the Catholic Church. But a lot of the Protestant churches, they have no issue having a rabbi come and speak to them. Whereas in the Catholic Church, it might be a different setting. Again, just like this is, which if you watch, you should have to watch the first video before you watch this video. This is not in the shul, meaning Pastor Bramnick is not being invited to speak from the bima, to speak from the amud, to speak from the pulpit. He's being invited to speak in the social hall at an event that is a pro-Israel event. And it's supposed to, I believe, the idea is to build bridges, which are good political bridges to build between the Jewish community and the Latino community in South Florida, where these are two very large communities that probably don't have very much interaction one with another. And so therefore, how do we build those bridges between these communities? What is an appropriate way to do that? And so, again, I didn't talk to Rabbi Goldberg about this. I don't know him. I'm sure he seems like a very nice guy, and I'm sure I would, be able to have a nice conversation with him about this subject. But there's a very good reason to want to build, askonos and stadlonos, as we would say, to build relations between the Jewish community and the Latino community, the Hispanic community, Latin American community. I'm not going to say Latinx, it's stupid. So anyway, so now it comes down to this question of, and so what's the nafka mina here? Because to me, I can see that from, on one hand, ostensibly, it's worse to bring this Bramnick, who has a special mission, who wants to convert Jews, than to bring, I don't remember the Catholic guy, Matt Kelly, who really doesn't care to convert Jews. On the other hand, if Israel is important to you, it's not really to me. Eretz Yisrael has a religious significance to me, the Holy Land, but the Israeli government and this and that, I don't even say I could take it or leave it. I'd much rather leave it. Excuse me. But I understand the religious Zionists have a different view. So for them, it's a very important issue, Israel, for the religious Zionists, for the modern Orthodox community. And so therefore, on the one hand, I think to my friend Rabbi Teller, or to these other guys who I will not dignify, Yaron Reuven and Yossi Mizrochi, they don't see the difference between the Catholic and the evangelical. They don't know the difference. To them, they're just blinded. And the same thing, I don't think Rabbi Weinberger would see the difference either. But Rabbi Weinberger is friends with, and he's probably very upset about it. But he's friends with Rabbi Goldberg, and if he has an issue with it, he will talk to his friend Rabbi Goldberg in a friendly manner. He won't be a jerk. He won't be a terrorist like Mizrahi and Yaron Reuven are. They've already lost all of their possibility to be mashpia. If they really cared about this issue, the way that they acted, the lack of derech eretz that they had, the lack of covenant Torah that they had, it's already farfallen. They're not going to accomplish anything by being moiche Rabbi Goldberg, because they've already proven themselves to be banditten. So that there's nothing that you're going to accomplish there. So, whereas, like I say, Rabbi Weinberger is a friend of Rabbi Goldberg. And if he thought it was, maybe he did tell him. I don't know. I don't know how often they talk. I don't talk to Rabbi Weinberger every day. I don't talk to him every year. Just he was my Rebbe in high school. But, sometimes I send him an email, he answers back, and that's about it. And I do that once every 6 months or so. I don't want to bother him. He's busy. I'm busy. But I don't think this is that big of a deal to me, because this is L'Shitasa, like I mentioned, in Woodmere. This might have been already 20 years ago, not 15 years ago. There was, in the Young Israel of Woodmere, they also brought a Christian evangelical pastor to speak about Israel. So, I remember one person, in Rabbi Friedman's shul bringing it up, in the Hasidic Shtibel in Queens, bringing up, this is wrong. Why is he doing this? But I didn't see, there weren't all these big machuas and everything. The way I say it is, in the Kiruv world, there's a lot of problems in the Kiruv world. They have what they call colloquially the Heter Kiruv, which there is no such thing as Heter Kiruv. But Heter Kiruv means there's like a dispensation, there's a permission, because you're doing something in order for outreach, for really mission work, trying to bring Jews back into Judaism, bring Jews back into the fold. You're allowed to do things which you're not allowed to do, which isn't true. But colloquially, that's kind of, that's part of the culture, that they overlook certain things. Boys and girls sitting together is a classical example. And then, and they'll say that, they have from, I'm trying to remember the name of there was a certain gadol who gave a heter, whatever it was. But he didn't give like the full heter the way that people think. But NCSY, the boys and the girls, they know that a lot of things go on that are not really appropriate, and they call it heter kiruv, right? I'm not talking about illegal things, which also took place, years ago with NCSY. But I'm just talking about the general types of the regular things, the normal things. And so I kind of see this as this heter Zionism, meaning, Zionism to the religious Zionist, just like they overlook all of the what do you call all the apikorsis of the secular Zionists. They want to be makar of them, or they believe that they're really even better than the Charedim, and this and now all the different beliefs that the religious Zionists might or might not have. There's different views in the different camps. It's the same thing. So the same thing here. The fact of the matter is there are more Christians who are very strong supporters of the state of Israel than there are Jews in the world. Many, many more. So for them, since they care, the religious Zionists, since they care so much about the state of Israel, obviously they have to have good relations with these Christian Zionists, right? Now, there's a whole thing about whether it's an eschatological thing and what does the eschatology mean, and people take things a little bit too far with accusing the Christian support of Israel to be the Jewish mainstream likes to fetishize anti-Semitism. They live off of anti-Semitism, especially the Zionists. And So they want to be convinced, especially the Jewish left. They want to be convinced that if if a Christian is supporting Israel, there must be some anti-Semitic reason, especially if they're right wing. If the right wing, if they're supporting Israel, that's anti-Semitism. It isn't. But I'm just saying. So this guy Bramnick, he's dedicated so much of his life to fighting anti-Semitism, to trying to build good relations between Christians and Jews, and of course he believes in Christianity, and there's the Great Commission to share the gospel, and there is a belief in Christianity to the Jew first, then to the Gentile. Go after the lost sheep of Israel. So obviously, that's part of his ideology, is he wants to convert Jews. But if he's being honest about it, he's not being subversive about it. If you give the Jews too little credit because you think, well, they're going to be hurt by this. They know, they want to get what they want out of it, and he wants to get what he wants out of it. And really, nobody's going to get anything out of it, except maybe, to have good relations between the communities, which I think is always good. Which again, the more Haredi people would be scared of that because everything's anti-Semitism, and also the more left-wing people, ironically, the right and the left kind of both share these kinds of things. Whereas the right wing, it's more of a fear, and the left wing, it's more of like a blame, and more of like I said, it's really it's an avodah zarah for them. It's a fetishization of anti-Semitism on the left, where it's not as much on the right. It's more of a genuine fear. It's more of a cultural issue, and also maybe a little bit of supremacy, which exists on the left also. So, whereas I think Rabbi Goldberg is very a middle of the road type of guy. Like what you're going to, I saw Rabbi Teller, he's saying, call the RCA and these other organizations, they should kick out Rabbi Goldberg for inviting this missionary to come speak at his shul, which really he's inviting a pastor to come speak at a secular event. The RCA, it's a Zionist organization, and whatever all these other organizations. He's not a member of the Igad Rabbanim. He's not a member of the Hisachdus Rabbanim. He's a member of the Zionist organizations, and to them, there's the Heter Zionism, there's a Heter Tzionis, there's just like the Heter Kiruv, Kol P'shay Mechas Ahava. So you're not going to get anywhere with that. So the real ultimate answer is, you don't like it, don't daven in his shul. It's not something we would do in our circles. But like I said before, in the old days, to be a member of the Jewish Community Council in most Ashkenazi communities, you had to be sworn in at the church by the bishop or by the deacon. Usually the bishop would be there and the deacon would administer the oath of office to be a member of the Jewish Community Council. There's a long history of Jewish interaction with Jews and Christians. That's part of our history, and you can't reinvent the world to say that we've always been aloof from the rest of the world. It's not true. We've always had some kind of these interactions, and there are different views about how is it appropriate to interact, yes or no. And so everybody has their thing, and the same thing. What if it wasn't about Israel? Let's say it was about fighting against the redefinition of marriage, which a lot of people see it's a farfal nazach. But I know Rabbi Yehuda Levin was very strong, working together with Christian clergy on this issue, fighting against abortion. Again, Rabbi Yehuda Levin also would go to the March for Life and all these things. So, is that wrong? So, because to me, I have a problem because it's about Israel, right? But I don't have a problem when it's for these other political things, even to work, even with Mishamadim. If I don't have a problem to work with Jay Sekulow to fight against abortion. He's a Jew for Jesus, right? And but if we have a common goal to fight against the abortion on demand that's really based in racism, there's a different thing when there are medically necessary terminations of pregnancies. That's a different story. And that, you want to argue on that, that's a different story. But to lynch babies in the womb, we know that's rooted in the same roots that the Democrat Party are rooted in the KKK. It's the same exact thing. All right, so should we work with Christians about that? Is it okay to stand on the same forum with Christian clergy who might be praying in the name of Jesus, and maybe Muslim clergy, maybe other faiths as well, that we are united to fight against the Democrats lynching babies in the womb? Or fighting against the redefinition of marriage, which is a big problem, but against the Shayna Verfallen Zach, so to most people, but now it looks like maybe things might change, maybe, but people aren't talking about whatever it is, but maybe we would have accomplished more if we would have been more united about these things, these are the type of questions, and so, everybody has their own view, and if you don't like what another rabbi is doing, the main thing is you do it in a respectful way, because that's the thing. These guys, Yaron Reuven and Yossi Mizrahi, they've already lost whatever possibilities that they had to live peacefully and to make an actual difference if it's something that they really believe in, because they don't speak with Derech Eretz. Derech Eretz Kadmon LaTorah. So, and again, I don't know what the whole story is, but to me, I believe in Kavod Torah. Rabbi Goldberg is the Marad Asra. He's the senior rabbi of the synagogue. He can make decisions together with the shul board, and if you're not a member of that shul, it's really none of your business. And I know part of it was because Yaron Reuven used to be a member of the shul, and he's upset about it. So, you move somewhere else. I really don't believe in this thing about opening another shul to compete. I think you move somewhere else where there isn't a shul, and you open a shul. And that's really what it should be, because we're suffering from stuff like that in our community, where people make their own minyanim and take away from our minyan, and we don't even have a minyan sometimes because other people make minyan. It's a big problem. So that's the story. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. We'll see you later. All right. But so, of course, whatever you do, do it with Derech Eretz. That's the main thing.